Okay, I think we're started. So, welcome everyone who's listening on Facebook. This is our show, What's the Tea, with Anew, Building Beyond Violence and Abuse. And we do the show monthly and we talk about a whole range of topics. We've had every single department at Anew on our show. We've had people from all over, like the Sertoma Center on Halsted, the YMCA. And today we are talking about mental health because May, although this is the last day of May, we're talking about Mental Health Awareness Month, and we're lucky to have Stacey Harris-Jones here with us. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me back again.
Of,
I'm glad I'm able to talk with you today.
yes, of course. You're one of the first people I thought of when I heard about this topic for an episode. Could you tell us a little bit about what you do and how you kind of became interested in mental health?
Sure. Right now I am working as a therapist for an employee assistance program called Lyra Health. I am also in private practice doing individual or couples therapy at True Heights Treatment in Chicago Heights. How I got interested in mental health when I originally went to school, and was majoring. It was with the aim of working in the field of education. And I did work with kids for quite some time. And somewhere in there, while I was earning my undergrad degree, I spoke with someone who was a mentor to me at the time and kind of talked about my career path. And she asked some really good questions of me that got me thinking. And by the end of that conversation, I had decided I wanted to be a therapist. I knew that that was, the path I needed to take. And so I changed my major and got my undergrad, went on to get my master's degree in community mental health counseling from St. Xavier University. And I've been doing this ever since 2014.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. So I kind of just to start us off, I wanted to talk a little bit about just like mental health in general, um, because I think the term is very broad. So I think a lot of different things might come to mind. So how do you think about just that term in general, mental health, and how do you define it? How would you think about it?
Mental health to me is basically somebody's mental, emotional, and psychological well being. Okay, so your mental health can impact how you view things, what you feel, what you do, how you handle life stressors, how you relate to other people. But mental health is much like your physical health. It's something that can fluctuate over time and something that also requires maintenance in order to be in a healthy state.
Hmm. Yeah, that's really interesting. Maintenance. So it's you kind of have to keep up with it, right? It's not something that you can't afford to not prioritize, which I think may end up being a theme as I was kind of thinking about mental health. Because yeah, I mean, you're a therapist. Would you say that people can sometimes kind of put it on the back burner and kind of prioritize other things?
Absolutely. I think we kind of get about the business of living life, taking care of our families, or going to work, or, spending time with friends. And you may have situations that pop up that cause you some type of mental or emotional distress. And for the average person, they try to just kind of power through it. They may have a day or they may even have just like a moment where they acknowledge those things, but then they power through. The problem with that is that if you have more situations that come up and more situations that come up, and you're just powering through, there's this buildup of like mental and emotional tension waiting to be addressed. And so I think that that's what a lot of people come across when they finally reach out to someone like me, where they're saying, like, I just feel really overwhelmed, with life, or I'm worrying about a lot of different things. And when we get to talking, this is something that's been building for a while because they hadn't prioritized addressing it at the time.
Yeah, that does make a lot of sense. And then it comes to a point where they finally go out and seek help. Um, but that doesn't necessarily need to be the case, right? I think someone could probably maybe notice those signs. Like for example, if it's persisting, like just going off some of the things that have been suggested by various organizations, like if the symptoms persist for say 2 weeks or longer,
Mhm.
um, yeah, how would you recommend someone know that maybe therapy would be right for them, or that they may be someone that they can benefit from it? Are there symptoms? Are there just, is it the feelings, or how would you think about that?
Well, to be fair, I am biased in that I think that everyone could benefit from therapy at some point in their lifetime. For someone individually trying to determine, should I talk to someone or should I not? It's really about how the emotional distress is impacting your ability to function in your day. So if you find that you're having a hard time concentrating, or being productive at work or at home, if you find yourself withdrawing from people that you used to enjoy or not engaging in activities that you used to enjoy, if you're sleeping or your eating habits are changing as a result of the mental or emotional distress, then at that time it might be a good place to reach out and seek some support.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to kind of emphasize one thing you said was that functioning, when you start to notice that sliding a little bit, is one of many things. This is kind of where I wanted to bring in my mug, since it is what's the tea. Um,
Uh,
I got this from our manager Carrie, and it says
uh,
it says you're on mute. That's
I
kind of,
like
yeah, it's got like two meanings almost. One, it reminds me that if I'm recording an episode of this show, I should probably not be on mute. And maybe for kind of for this episode, it's like, hey, you need to speak up if something's going on, right? You need to kind of reach out and talk to someone. So I kind of use that as a reminder to anyone. Maybe someone will listen and they just want just a little bit of a push. And there, there it is. Um, and I think that kind of leads us into one of the next things that we wanted to talk about. People who are kind of resistant to kind of seeking support. And the word that gets used a lot is stigma. So
that.
I think there are probably lots of reasons why stigma exists, probably less so as far as seeking help. Do you have any ideas from what you've heard or what you've seen why that kind of still persists, that stigma about getting support?
I think that, while the conversation around mental health has come a long way, I do believe, particularly in the past couple of years with the pandemic, the topic of mental health has been kind of front and center and how that has impacted us all globally.
Hmm.
Um, However, there's still this belief that um, mental illness or mental health is equivalent to maybe like big catastrophic things or like a complete breakdown or something of that nature, where someone who may be going through a depressive episode or maybe really anxious, they won't necessarily categorize themselves as having a mental health issue. People tend to view it in extremes,
Mm.
when that's not always the case. It's actually more commonly kind of in the middle, in this gray area of I'm functioning but barely. You you know what I'm saying? So I think that's part of it, is that people think it's an extreme, and so they're like, well, that's not me. So I can't really categorize myself as having that type of issue. Also, while we know that 1 in 5 adults will experience some type of mental health difficulty in their lifetime, it's still a very isolating situation. So when you're in the midst of a depressive episode, let's say, you feel very alone. You feel very isolated, as if you are the only one kind of going through it at that moment. Even though, like I said, we know that it's a pretty common thing. Depression and anxiety are kind of like the common colds of mental health. where so many people have been impacted by that. So I think the isolation of struggling with mental health brings about maybe feelings of shame, and so people don't talk about it as freely or as openly, um, you know, as as I wish that they would, to kind of normalize that, hey, this is a thing that my sibling has dealt with and been okay, or my cousin or my neighbor. I think if we had more conversations within our families and our friend groups or workplaces, that people would see like, hey, this is more common than I was really believing it to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And just speaking about that, just kind of in preparation for the episode, just kind of seeing like what the numbers are out there, because this really, mental health, it affects people of all ages, of all backgrounds, and as you were saying, just kind of coming out of COVID, where people were really isolated. Just one couple of things that I found were like the World Health Organization found a 25% increase in anxiety and
Mm,
depression symptoms. And then SAMHSA, in a recent study that they did, I don't know if this looks like it was adults, but they were finding 2 in 5 adults in this particular study were reporting symptoms of anxiety and depression. So seems to be increasing. It doesn't seem to be, going back the other way whatsoever. And I think now, at least, maybe as compared to the past, there's more infrastructure to kind of treat these things.
mm,
Um, there's more counselors, there's more social workers and psychologists. And really, I think maybe as you were saying, it's more geared towards that middle ground and that maybe that gray area where, someone's not checking into an outpatient facility just because that's the only
mm,
option available, um, and they're feeling overwhelmed or they're not feeling right. So
mm.
I think that's awesome. Seems like although there's that increase, there are probably more options for people.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I've been very encouraged, in the last couple of years, seeing how access to services appears to be increasing. So, even those people who maybe they don't feel comfortable coming to the office, telehealth has become kind of a regular thing where people can, get on their phone or their computer and talk with a therapist from the comfort of their home, where maybe they feel more comfortable doing so. And a lot of like companies are offering employee assistance programs or increasing their mental health benefits, speaking to that in the workplace and realizing how, everyone has been impacted. So that has been encouraging for me, that while the numbers have increased of people dealing with it, the access to it also seems to be growing as well.
Yeah, um, that is definitely good to hear. And we were kind of talking about, like, for example, like you're on Psychology Today.
Mm,
If someone wanted to seek you specifically, they could find you on Psychology Today, I think
mm,
.com. Which one thing that I think is cool about that website is you can kind of read someone's blurb, a therapist blurb, kind of see what they specialize in. You can see what they look like. Maybe someone might be more comfortable with a certain type of therapist. Maybe they can just have a better feeling about that person. Whereas maybe instead someone was just calling a phone number and
mm.
they kind of like, I don't know who is going to be seeing me. So I think that could be a good thing as well. Not that you should just judge someone by the way that they look or anything like that, but you can get to know maybe a little insight there, which could be more accessible for people.
Absolutely, absolutely. Being able, many therapists, they are on Psychology Today or other types of platforms where they, like you said, provide a blurb about them, what they specialize in. They may have websites or social media pages where they post things, so you kind of get a feel of how this person works or treats mental health, as well as, if someone is, let's say they're on Psychology Today and they're searching through, some therapists will, list in there that they offer maybe like a free 10-minute consultation. So you can reach out to the person, have a short conversation, and kind of get a feel, will this be a good fit for me or not before even making an appointment and moving forward with that. So I know that the decision itself to seek therapy is a huge one for people. And you want to connect with someone. You want to start working with someone that you can really connect with and be open and be vulnerable with. So I know how important that is, the therapeutic relationship. So having those opportunities to get a feel for someone can create some confidence or sense of safety moving forward with getting some help.
Yeah, that is really important to know. And that's just great that they have that, so you can kind of, um, yeah, as you're saying, get a feel for that person. Are you going to be able to connect with them? Um, I wish I had the research at my disposal, but constantly throughout school, we hear a lot. The one of the maybe the top three, if not one of the most important deciding factors, if someone really does make progress, is that relationship and
Mm-hmm.
whether they can connect and really um, express what they came there for, is what I should say. So kind of get there instead of maybe they don't feel comfortable with their therapist, and then um, they don't feel comfortable opening up, and then it kind of is prolonged, kind of those feelings and symptoms. So that is really good to know. And to kind of transition, we have talked a lot about seeking support in a professional setting, but I do think there are lots of things that people can do as far as promoting their positive mental health and self-care.
Mm-hmm.
Do any of things that jump to mind for you or things that you like to do?
Um, well, I think connecting with, my loved ones, family and friends. So seeking that positive support from them. Um, Trying to get enough rest is important as well. Doing like hobbies and things like that that I enjoy when I'm trying to like recharge my battery or check in with myself. I also do like, some meditation and some deep breathing and relaxation type things just to kind of connect with myself and tune into myself daily. Yeah, those for me are the things that are kind of sticking out.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's finally, if you live in the Midwest like we do, it's finally nice outside.
Yes.
Just getting that sunlight. I again, I this is just something that I heard, so I don't know if this is true, but I heard that we have at least had 1 week less of sunlight this year than in previous
Mm.
years. Because it's been raining like crazy. It seemed like the snow extended longer than we all wanted to. We had a couple of false
Yes.
springs in there, so hopefully people can start getting outside and um,
Hmm.
moving around and just kind of doing those things that make us feel alive. That should make us feel better. And then if those things are really not working, that's definitely a sign that to try something new.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I wish I looked that one up because that one is pretty significant.
I believe it though. I do. I believe that uh the the lack of sunlight and just kind of being, coming off of the pandemic where a lot of us kind of stayed at home, we weren't moving about as much, we weren't able to engage in those hobbies or activities that we wanted to because things may have been shut down or what have you. Um, Now that things are kind of more accessible, I think that, people should be getting out and doing those things, but not engaging in that can also negatively impact your mental health, or not getting that much needed sunlight, that vitamin D that can negatively impact your mental health. So absolutely getting out and just doing those things that bring you some sense of joy can help balance out the more difficult times.
Definitely. And I
Mhm.
can see someone who is struggling a bit and it's like they can't bring themselves to do those things. So it kind of just leads back into the same feelings because they're not able to kind of break that habit of, staying inside or something like that. Um,
Mhm.
so that could be kind of another sign that they're really not able to engage with that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So, is there anything else that you wanted to kind of talk about today? We kind of went through a lot, just general mental health stuff, but is there anything that we left unsaid for you?
Nothing that I can think of off the top of my head, to be honest. I do think we covered a good amount. I guess just maybe again addressing that stigma and that there is no shame in seeking support. Sometimes it helps to talk to a non-judgmental, unbiased person who can give you some objective feedback. But more importantly, what a mental health professional can provide someone with is tools.
Hmm.
So, the tools to navigate any unhealthy thoughts, uh, emotions, or behaviors that someone may be dealing with, so that they can learn those tools in therapy, leave therapy, and then use those tools in life going forward when the inevitable ups and downs of life do occur.
Yeah, and that more unbiased piece I think is important because a lot of, it's
Mhm.
great to turn to your loved ones, your friends and family,
Mhm.
but we all know not everyone's a great listener.
Mhm.
Sometimes you might say something, it gets misinterpreted, and then you're getting advice or something like that when you're really, sometimes it does take a while. It takes a full session to kind of lay everything out there and kind of see the whole picture where someone's actually listening to understand and not to um,
Mhm.
just kind of jump at you with, their perspective, um,
Mhm.
which can
Mhm.
be helpful, but at the same time, maybe not in that setting.
Right, right. Right. Family and friends, they typically they mean well, but a lot of times it's a response of what you should be doing in a situation. Whereas a therapist will help you to discern for yourself what what's best for you to do, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was great. I definitely wanted to cover this topic. I think it's super important. It's timely, and it's not going anywhere. So, kind of one last give the tea. You're on mute. If you do need to speak up, definitely we encourage you to do so. Um, and like we said, there's a huge increase in kind of mental health troubles and these kind of feelings and symptoms. So you would not be the only person kind of going through that whatsoever.
Mhm.
And we will put some links for places that people could visit if they do want to kind of take that next step. Um, and we will put up your link for Psychology Today as well as your True Heights link as well. So if you wanted to get in touch with Stacy, or if you wanted to kind of just seek some help, just generally. Well, I really appreciate the conversation today, Stacy, and I hope we can talk again sometime in the future.
Me too, me too. I'm always open to talk.
Well, thanks everyone for listening as well. This is another episode of What's the Tea. We will be back in June with an interesting episode. Same time and same place, and we'll have a different tea for you. Thank you, Stacy, and thanks everyone.
Thank you.